Hello, welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/drive-in double feature podcast. Just a little fun area where we're playing some games, having some fun conversations, just a bunch of other crap over there on Patreon where we're having some fun. But it is a good time over there. We try to cater to the audience. So if there's anything you'd like to hear from us over there, please let us know. Please support us. It all goes back into the show. But today, this is a pretty monumental episode for two reasons, Nathan. So
things worked out.
One, because it's Thursday.
God, I love Thursdays. Yeah. We always record on Thursdays, right?
Yeah. TGIT. But no, Nathan, it's our 200th episode. We did it.
Woo, we did it. I can't believe it. That is insane. And it still feels like it was yesterday when we started this podcast and we were talking about like communion and stuff like that. Or is it starting to feel old
to you?
That
long ago.
Is it?
Is a little old? If it was old, since neither one of us get a paycheck from this, if it was getting old, I wouldn't do it anymore. But
yeah, exactly. But we do get kind of a paycheck.
Well, I mean, we get paid in movie viewings, so it all evens out.
Exactly, but no, exactly. I'm still having a great time doing this, even though it is sad that we are ending a chapter today.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it at the end of the movie. But so the other big reason is this is the last Godzilla movie of the Showa era. That's 15 movies. So Nathan, roughly, if you take out all the other side movies that we did leading up to this, we did 15 movies from this one series.
That's crazy. And we were doing this once a month. So it was 15 months of doing this. I can't believe it.
Well, I mean, more technically, if you add in all the
other
Toho,
stuff.
the other ones, actually. So just to give you guys a perspective, we recorded our very first Godzilla episode on January 20th, 2022.
Wow.
And that was episode 18.
Oh my God. So it has been a long time, huh?
Yeah, so 182 episodes later, here we are.
We did it. We are closing out. That's crazy.
Yeah. You know, we probably shouldn't watch so many movies.
No, I need this. I love watching these movies.
No, it's been a pleasure, Nathan. Like I said before, it's been fun doing it. I actually look forward to doing it, and it's a great excuse for me to not only have a creative outlet to do this, because sometimes I feel a little stifled in a way of like not having stuff to do to get these creative juices flowing, and getting to do this show with you and watching all these movies I probably would have never watched in my free time. It's a very motivating experience and very enjoyable, and I'm glad I get to do this with you.
Very nice of you. That means a lot. No, and I totally agree. It's been really nice because I don't know. When we started this, I had just met you when we did Trashy Boys. Not that I had just met you, but we didn't talk like a lot. But then we started doing this on a weekly basis, and we watch movies and we talk to each other all. It's really nice to make a really great friend through this podcast. So I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much what Nathan and I talk about when we're hanging out anyway.
Yes, so, yeah, it'll be like, oh, you remember that movie that we watched?
Yeah, well, even that, or just like other movies that are completely unrelated to the podcast. So
exactly, yeah. So hey, it's a fun outlet.
But no, I am actually very sentimental towards the series that we've done, and we're going to be doing stuff that's like that moving forward. That I want to still keep like a theme going, like once a month. But in terms of Godzilla and the whole series once together, getting towards the end of this, I was getting like weirdly like sentimental and emotional, like not
Yeah.
upset, but just being like, wow, that's like it's over. Like I was kind of bummed out a
Mhm.
little bit.
Yeah, and I totally understand. I felt the same way. It was kind of like I said earlier, it felt like a chapter. Like, like Godzilla was the main. Like, I knew every month, or pretty much every month, I was going to watch a Godzilla movie. I knew that. That was like a constant. But we'll just have to move it on to something. We still got Bond, and then we'll see what you bring to the table next.
Yeah. So, but enough of that mushy crap.
Hmm.
Let's get dig right into this meat. So,
Yeah, into
uh,
this garbage.
yeah, this piece of crap. But no, this movie is the Terror of Mechagodzilla, made in 1975,
Hmm.
directed by, wait for it, Ishirō Honda.
Wow, he's
He's
back.
back.
Hmm.
He's when I made the joke. I mean, it was we always make the joke he's back, but we were literally, it's because we're talking about older movies and the one we were doing.
Hmm.
He's back. He did the final
Yeah,
Godzilla movie.
he did the final one. It's very fitting, and it's his last Godzilla movie too. So it kind of works that way.
Yeah, it's so fitting. I mean, because Jun Fukuda, I mean, I believe they did offer him the opportunity to direct this one, and he's like, "Hell no! I'm sick of these stupid Godzilla movies."
You told me that would be the last one. I don't want to come back. I
Yeah,
get it.
so he's out of the picture. Ishiro Honda. So where we kind of left him before, he was kind of like, I hate to say, but kind of like a beaten man. But he
Hmm.
was very much just like having to fight, give up his creative juices, and kind of have to bend to the will of the studio executives, like telling them to make this more kid friendly, like don't make
Mm.
it so dark, stop taking out all the drama. And so he was kind of like at a point where just like, like I don't even want to make these movies anymore, to the so much to the point where he was kind of semi-retired at this point.
Hmm.
He was he was still involved in the industry, but in terms of feature films, he really wasn't working on too many at this point. And they came back and they offered him the position, and he did take it. He said he kind of felt like Godzilla had kind of moved on without him, but he was just kind of like, all right, well, if I'll do it again, type of thing.
Yeah, I
And
think even his son was like, I don't know why he did it, but he did. He said yes. Toho
yeah,
had some dirt on him. They blackmailed him into doing it. That was a joke. I don't know, but I
they
don't
must
know.
have they must have had something on this dude, because he just did so much for this, and he just they just treat him like garbage half the time.
I
And
know.
but he's back, and in terms of story, I mean, they really liked the Mechagodzilla character, so they really wanted to continue that trend, because it was like, oh, it was a hit, so obviously people want more Mechagodzilla. So, but at this point, though, they were so devoid of ideas to what their next movie it was going to be, that they decided to hold a story contest. It's like,
Isn't
you
that
tell us,
crazy?
you give us the ideas.
Yeah, that must be nice. Like just to be like, oh, the fans can make the story. See, this is what we're talking about with comic book movies nowadays. The fans need to make this stuff. So, hey, it works. But I actually think this story is interesting because um unlike Jet Jaguar, right? Is that the one that the kid made and then they just took that idea from him?
Yeah,
This woman that wrote this story ended up having a career after Godzilla. So she actually did get her start here.
yeah. She was a, which I'll say, it's a Yukio Takayama.
Mhm.
She sent in an idea for this movie, and the executives loved it so much that they actually offered her the position of being a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And so she got to write the entire screenplay. So at this point, she wasn't the first one, but she was the first female screenwriter to write an entire Godzilla movie on her
That's
own.
cool.
And she was really excited about working with Honda, because she it's so funny because I mean, so it's at this point it's 20 years separated. So I mean, she was probably a little child watching the first couple Godzilla movies,
Yeah.
and now she's a grown adult, and now she's working on it. And that's she had said that she watched a couple of those movies growing up, and then just the fact that she actually gets to work with the
Mhm.
original director, he it was just like a dream come true at this point.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy that we've watched this many years of Godzilla's that it's coming full circle that people that watch these as kids are able to work on these movies now?
It's true. I mean, they've been there's so many years removed. I was trying to think like something like of like the Avengers or like the MCU type of like,
Hmm.
and I was just thinking it's like how far separated. It's like it's at this point it's been what 15 years
Yeah, because I
from
yeah.
Iron Man came out in 2008 and it's 2023 right now. So it's like
Mhm.
there are probably, a little 6-year-old that saw Iron Man and now it's like 21 are like I'm ready to work on my Marvel movie now.
I love Marvel movies. No, I mean exactly, and I'm sure it's happened. Um, but I mean, I think that's really awesome, and I like the idea of this one. I like bringing Mechagodzilla back. He's a good character. I think it's worth it. I was a little surprised that this is actually like a direct sequel because you don't see that in any of these movies. They don't connect to each other. This one really doesn't either. But this one is a little more connected.
It's probably the most connected. I mean, War of the Gargantuas was like, yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
connected, but this one at least it picks up almost right where the other one left off,
Hmm.
except no returning characters, and even the aliens aren't really the same that were there
No.
before.
I actually
Uh,
really hate it because there's an Interpol agent in this movie, and it's not even the same Interpol agent.
it's the same bad guy too.
Yeah, and
The
I
same
just
the same actor plays a different bad guy.
yeah, it's so weird because they did that like they swapped actors around. Like what's it, God you would know his name. The professor from the last one ends up being like an evil
Akihiko
doctor.
Hirata.
Yeah, he ends up being an evil doctor in this one. So they're doing the same old Toho shtick.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't realize that this was going to be the last. I mean, there was rumblings that this was going to be the last Godzilla movie for the
Mhm.
Showa, but it was officially they were not really sure if this was going to be the last one or not. And the so the other big bad in here, other than the aliens, which is the same aliens from the previous movie, is Akihiko Hirata comes back and he plays the villain in this movie, which is Dr. Mafune. And
Hmm.
it's just funny because he was the hero of the first movie, and now the very last movie, he's the villain.
Yeah, and he plays such a cartoony villain. I feel like I've never seen him play a role like this in these movies where he's really over the top. He's got like a big fake white mustache on. And I won't lie. I think I enjoyed his plot of he's a scientist. He knows about this dinosaur and he wants to control it, and the scientist community shuns him. So he decides to take things into his own hands, and it works.
Which is a weird plot in itself because they they discover this dinosaur underwater, and they're like, oh well, this Professor Mifune, he discovered this dinosaur, but the scientific community rejected him. And at a certain point, you're like, well, there's been all these other monsters though that have been attacking Japan. Like there's probably 30 odd monsters that have all been running around, and now
Yeah.
you're going to be like, no, not that one. That one's you're
Whoa,
crazy.
leave the dinosaur alone, buddy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
what's this
totally agree.
dinosaur? You think this dinosaur is going to be
Yeah.
running around? But it's the dinosaur in the room with us now, doctor.
Yeah. And then they all beat him up.
That is weird. Yeah, they show him getting beaten up in the photos.
I love that there was a photographer there just taking pictures of this guy getting the crap beat out of him. Uh, but once again, I don't think it's weird. I remember more about this human plot than the last movie, but that also doesn't mean that I like it as much. I think maybe the humans were a little more relatable in the last one, and he's probably him and his daughter are probably the only characters that really stuck out to me in this movie.
Yeah, I mean there is a male protagonist, which is Ichinose, and
Yeah.
he's an Interpol agent, and
Hmm.
he uh, he kind of starts falling in love with the professor's daughter,
Hmm.
and he it kind of develops these romantic. But I mean, I really was not connecting with that romance. I mean, I know they were trying to go with this tragic love
Hmm.
story, but it just did not connect with me at all. Like I was just like, I'm not buying this. This is pretty bland, honestly, for in terms of romance.
Yeah, exactly. No, I felt very much the same way.
But
Um,
I do agree with you that I do feel like the human plot is a lot more memorable, and I'm gonna say it's probably one of the better human plots of any other of
mhm.
the other Godzilla movies.
Yeah, because it allows itself to be goofy. It allows because like usually the humans are pretty disconnected from the sci-fi elements. But like and think of Invasion of the Astro Monster that had the sci-fi elements and it was intertwined with the people, and I think that made that stand out. And kind of same here, this one has a sillier tone to it, and I think that's what makes it interesting. It actually is doing something at least.
Yeah, definitely. And I so the story for this one, like I said, Takayama, she wrote the screenplay for this one, and they said she turned in like 3 or 4 drafts of it, and even Honda had said she really is not thinking. She doesn't really have a very cinematic script to it,
Yeah.
and he had to kind of help her out a lot. But she was really willing to take on the advice because she admired him so much, and
Hmm.
by the end of it, he actually admired her as a screenwriter a lot. And they always, one thing about Honda is that apparently he was always a really big proponent of female perspective on a
Hmm.
lot of these movies. And one of the rumors was at the time is like he would leave his screenplays out on in his house so that way his wife would read them, and that way his wife could give her opinions on it as well.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, didn't he for the longest time, we talked about this forever ago, but after got the Godzilla movies, Toho put him on to do those female led dramas. So I think it was kind of always there.
yeah, after the original Godzilla movie was over, because again, he didn't direct the very first Godzilla movie.
Hmm.
I mean, sorry, he didn't direct the second Godzilla
Yeah.
movie. He, and that's because they pulled him to do more human, like female-driven love stories. I think that's so. I think like this stronger human element is definitely shines through with Honda and Takayama teaming up and kind of trying to make something of it that normally we wouldn't see in a Godzilla movie.
Exactly. I think that's what's nice about Ishirō Honda coming back to these movies. I mean, I actually like Jun Fukuda, but Honda just brings something special to these movies. I think he can make a more relatable human plot, or just draw something more interesting out. And him working with the screenwriter obviously helped that.
Well, I mean, Honda is he's no slouch when it comes to regular movies too. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just kind of pigeonholed into like and
Hmm.
doing a lot of these sci-fi movies when he could be directing a lot of more of like these big cinematic movies like a Kurosawa movie that
Hmm.
that were getting made, and but he was kind of just like, well, I'm just make my same movies that they tell me to make because I'm
Hmm.
just do what they tell me to do. But uh I definitely feels like he's not as constrained as he normally is in this one because this movie is a lot darker in tone than
Yeah.
a lot more of the recent movies that have been out. So this one is focusing a lot more on the human element, and because what happens in this movie is that the aliens do recover the parts from Mechagodzilla and they're trying to rebuild it, and the aliens are working with Dr. Mifune because he's a crazy guy and he wants to take revenge against the Earth for him not believing him.
Hmm.
So he's like, and when he does help them work on Mechagodzilla, and he says, oh well, Mechagodzilla, he's never going to be a superior being unless you guys give him some type of living human tissue. I, which I don't know why putting a human brain in a
Yeah.
robo dinosaur make any sense, but whatever. And
It sets up the movie being tragic. Okay.
it does, but the aliens they actually take his daughter without him
Wow.
knowing, and they turn her into an android or a cyborg,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
put Mecha Godzilla's controller in her brain.
yeah, and I mean, I have to say it. This is one of the other Godzilla movies, children's movies with nudity in it, because they're working on her at one point, turning her into like an android, and her boobs are out. And I think they're fake, but still, it's like, what? Why is this necessary?
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
fake,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
don't worry, she does show her boobs later in a different pink movie that she did.
Wow. We really got to cover. Okay, October's Pink Month.
Oh, it's like breast cancer, perfect.
Perfect. Yes.
That one was taken out of the original of the American cut,
Makes sense.
and but again, nudity is just not really seen as that big of a deal, I don't think, in Japan. And even this one, it's definitely not sexual at all. It's very
No,
much
no.
it's has all the it's like watching them performing a surgery and they just have her chest exposed.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not sexual in any way. But we haven't even talked about the new monster yet.
Well, yeah, I wanted to make sure we built up to that. So
Yes.
leading up to that, because how the movie starts, it's the military going underwater in a submarine, and they're trying to find parts and pieces from Mecha Godzilla, but they bit off a little more they can chew because out of nowhere a dinosaur appears, and it's the dinosaur that Dr. Mifune promised would be seen, and that is Titanosaurus, which is kind of a giant fish-like lizard. Would you say? Looks like
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. I don't even know.
it's got a very dinosaur-like body. What was the dinosaur? Paleosaurus, I think, is or the
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah. So it's supposed to be an aquatic type of dinosaur. So it's got the little fin for a tail and got a fin on top, but it's got the very cutest roar, Nathan, and it sounds just like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So cute.
And so that roar is it's it's actually a sped up modified version of elephant trumpeting. So
Gotcha. That makes
which
sense.
is but they wanted it to kind of have like this evil kind of cackle, kind of like a Gabra.
Hmm.
But this one they had that. Now, if you love the sound of that roar, you're going to be hearing that a lot. Nathan,
Over
what did
and over.
Nathan? So, what did you think of Titanosaurus and his roar?
Okay, that cackle is so annoying. It's over and over. I was giving. I usually don't care about the roars, but his is a little annoying. But the thing is I do kind of like the design of him. It's no Mecha Godzilla. It's definitely not a standout monster, but he's fine.
I really like the look of him. I think
Yeah.
it's got a colorful look to him. It's kind of like it's a lot more simplistic than a
Hmm.
lot of the other ones where it's like Gigan, it's like, yeah, I got these hooks and he's got a buzz saw in his chest, or
Yeah.
Megalon, where it's like a bug that shoots bombs and has drills for arms. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more simplistic, and I appreciate that. So
Hmm.
I really like the look. The roar, I mean, yeah, it does get annoying after a while, but I I think that's kind of the point
Yeah,
a
I
little
think so.
bit.
Like you said, it's a cackle. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be upsetting. He's a villain.
But yeah, and the thing is, he's not really a villain too at the same time,
That's
because
true.
they do make it a point that he is being controlled by Dr. Mifune, and Dr. Mifune has been controlling this dinosaur, and this dinosaur has been murdering people and beating up Godzilla against its will.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic, isn't it? He's just
It
woken up to
is.
do that. Yeah.
It's
We didn't mention it, but that submarine scene, I do have to say, he's a little silly looking when the whirlpool happens and he's like latched on the submarine and it goes down the whirlpool once again. It looks like a toy, but it's funny. But no,
it's very
oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's very clearly a figure of
Yeah.
some sort, but it just looks funny. But I do think it's a good introduction to the character or the monster. Like you just
Mhm.
see him out of nowhere, and it just like hugs this submarine, and it just explodes in its chest.
Yeah. And Brian, I do have to say, Titanosaurus shows up in the Godzilla soccer game as well. He is a
Uh,
playable character.
oh, fantastic! Do you get to hear its roar?
I hope so. He's also in Godzilla Unleashed, so uh,
Another
wonderful.
point.
Yep,
Well,
ding.
um, but yeah, I don't know. I really like the way they look in this one.
Yeah.
I will say so. The human element of this movie is very, very prevalent in this movie. Like when I
Mhm.
say that, we see the intro to Titanosaurus. We don't see Godzilla almost an hour into this movie.
Yeah, it's one of those Godzilla movies where we have to wait to see him.
Yeah, and he's got a great introduction, and then even Mechagodzilla. You see Mechagodzilla just kind of standing there, like when they're working on him, but
Hmm.
he doesn't start moving around until like an even later in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little disappointing, but what's funny is, I mean, at least this one has a strong enough human plot to where it's not boring. Where most of the time, these movies where it's like that, where it's like, oh, we didn't see Godzilla till late, and it was like, well, that sucked. This one's it's fine for that. And like you said, Godzilla's intro is really cool, where the light starts shines in on his face. And we know how we talked about how that how cool the new Godzilla suit is. I think he looks really good in here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's they changed. It's the same body from the other
Hmm.
ones, but they just changed the face just a little bit, and
Hmm.
it again, I want a really great looking face on this one,
Yeah.
and but yeah, he's got a great intro, and Godzilla again, like this one is like Godzilla versus Gigan almost, where Godzilla just gets like the crap beaten out of him for like a majority of the movie.
Yeah, of
Like,
course it is.
um, now it's not as it's not as violent as the as
No.
Mechagodzilla, where he gets like the blood spraying and all that. But one thing I didn't say in the last review is that the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, other than a couple of flashbacks that are in the movie when they're talking about other monsters, that movie is almost completely original material. There's no stock footage like from
Wow, Toho, good job.
they made an original movie with without that cannot be said though for this one
Yeah.
because they do reuse shots from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Wow, Honda, you really let him do it, huh? Uh, but he probably had no choice. But yeah, that's the thing. But I do think Godzilla, it is funny. Like there is one scene where Titanosaurus puts his hand on Godzilla's nose, like almost feels like his snout out, like touching it, picks him up and like slams him down by his mouth. I think that is a great scene, even if it's Godzilla getting beat up. I love it.
Now, Nathan, how would you feel if somebody just bit you on the nose and just like they picked you up with
I mean, it would hurt a lot. It also make me feel self conscious about my nose. So, and you think that's how Godzilla felt? Like, oh, I got a big nose. Oh God,
I think your nose would probably rip off if somebody bit your nose hard enough to do that.
to
But
lift you up, yeah, it would be gone.
good thing his nose was rubber. But
Yeah, true, true.
uh, no, I they so basically Godzilla and Mechagodzilla Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus, they just beat him up entirely. Like they're kicking him. Like there's one point, like they like Godzilla is like trying to get up, and Titanosaurus just like soccer kicks him like right in the
Yeah, and he's
face.
like tumbling. Like this man fall like just like gets thrown around. You know what? I guess I can't say it's the worst, but you're right. It is one of the worst beatings he's gotten.
I I think probably Godzilla versus Gigan is probably the worst he's gotten beaten up, where he got
Yeah, because he's like
literally
bloody.
stabbed. Well, he got
Yeah.
stabbed in the head. Like they dropped the hook and it's just like
Yeah.
so. But this one, in terms of like getting beaten up, it's pretty bad because he's getting
Mhm.
beaten up by two different monsters, and at one point they blow a hole in the ground and they throw his lifeless body in there, and then they bury him alive too.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Yeah, he gets buried alive, and did we mention that the girl is controlling Mechagodzilla, right?
Yeah, so that's when she was having the surgery. That was one thing they
Mhm.
implemented, was that they can put God Mechagodzilla's controller in her head, so she can control Godzilla, and her father can control Titanosaurus.
Yes, yeah. But the father kind of gets a realization, like, and it's not really like positive, but I think he realizes like what damage he has done at this point, which is like someone who's crazy enough to be like, I'm going to take control of a dinosaur and have revenge on the entire Earth by destroying it. Wouldn't I don't think they'd ever come to the realization that, oh, I'm doing something wrong.
Well, and it's so dark because his daughter, she all she's done up until this point is like protect her father, and like because Interpol showed up at their house like trying to ask
Mm-hmm.
questions, she lies and say her father's dead
Mm-hmm.
and all this stuff, and uh even like she tries to get close to the Interpol agent Ichinose just to get dirt and like try to like get him to put him off the track of her father, and she gets rewarded by this, and like I said, he has a point of realization like, oh wow, this is bad, but it's not enough of a realization for him to second guess what he's doing. It's just like
Yeah,
full steam ahead. I still got it. We got this far,
it's
let's
going
do it.
on. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it ends very tragically with her like she feels horrible for what she the only way she can solve the issue is she kills herself. Like she sacrifices herself so she doesn't control Mechagodzilla anymore.
Yeah, it's that's the only way they could stop Mechagodzilla from working, is that
Mhm.
she dies, and she ends up shooting herself in the head. And
Mhm.
speaking of that, so one thing they do find out is that one of the weaknesses for Titanosaurus is that he hates supersonic waves.
Of course, yeah.
So we've come full circle back to where the military was attacking Godzilla in the first movie, and now
Mhm.
they're helping him.
Yeah, they
They're
help
giving
him.
they're giving him a hand, and the military actually does something proactive, and they
I know,
shoot.
and not like just shoot at them and not do absolutely nothing. They help. Godzilla second is humans. It's the
Yeah,
military.
yeah, because so apparently Mechagodzilla was so evil in the first one, they had to write a whole prophecy that required two monsters to beat him, but now it's one monster in the military.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm all for it, and they take care of him. Godzilla ends up ripping Mechagodzilla's head off, like in the first one. But guess what? He's got a hidden head under his head. He can't be stopped.
Well, let me ask, so did you know that was going to happen?
No, I did not.
So what
I
was your
was
reaction?
I was surprised. I mean, I think I like laughed because I was like, "Oh, that's silly." I like it. Like it's like a twist, like a really dumb twist, but like, "Oh my god, he's got us hidden head."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And he does once once she's dead, Mecha Godzilla kind of powers down, and
Mhm.
Godzilla throws him, blows up Mecha Godzilla with
And
his atomic breath.
he flies back.
Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention that was also like so memorable, was when Godzilla was getting beaten up. Mecha Godzilla shoots a missile like right into Godzilla's chest, and like smoke comes billowing out
Oh,
of
that's right.
Godzilla's head.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. We also forgot to mention Mechagodzilla destroying this Tokyo, and the scene, that really awful scene with the two kids being like, "Oh my god,
Oh,
we're gonna get stepped on," and Godzilla saves them.
that
It's so unnecessary.
I know it was so dumb, and they like like Titanosaurus is about to, like, you see his little like claw like
And
about to grab these kids.
it's so poorly green screened too. It looks awful.
Yeah, then Godzilla's like, not on my watch, and just starts running over there.
I killed so many people 20 years ago, but today I'm saving a couple humans.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I want to mention is Titanosaurus's tail wag, which I thought was pretty
Oh
creative.
yeah.
Like, since he's got a big fin for a tail, once he swings his tail, it causes these huge gusts of wind, like hurricane-like winds.
Yeah. I like that too.
Which they love that. They love doing that with Rodan, Mothra, Ghidorah.
Anything wind related.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it blows them away. And once Mechagodzilla has been destroyed, Titanosaurus is like, they shoot the little missile on Titanosaurus next, and they emit supersonic waves. Titanosaurus is just like, I just like cannot believe it. He just in so much pain,
Mm-hmm.
and Godzilla is just like, screw you, beats him up even more, and then
Mm-hmm.
just hits him again with the atomic breath, and he just collapses back into the ocean, like falls backwards.
Yep. Bye, punk. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta say.
that's just like, so this poor dinosaur just didn't want anything to do with any of this
Mm-mm.
stuff, and he's just like, now he's just going to be like waking up in the ocean like half dead, being like, what
He's got
happened?
it's like the hangover, but like the
Yeah,
monster movie version. Oh
yeah,
my god. Come to find out you were in like a giant fight with Godzilla the night before.
I know.
Yeah.
And oh, one thing too I want to say too about the fight, I actually really loved a lot of the camera shots that they had in this movie.
Hmm.
Now, normally they shoot all these monster movies behind like matte paintings, and they do in this one as well too. But
Yeah.
there's some scenes where I'm pretty sure they like went outside and they shot the monsters from upward, so you kind of
Hmm.
see like these really big macro shots of like Titanosaurus and Godzilla kind of like boxing with each other, or they're just throwing punches, or they're throwing their head butting each other. I thought that was actually really creative, and it's like, we haven't really seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
We didn't talk about this in the last movie, but I think these last two movies have been some of the most well shot, well edited movies of the bunch. Because the last one was edited really like crazily. I really liked it. But you're right, this one, a lot of the fight scenes looked really good. And like you said, it was filmed outside. So there's like a bright blue sky, and they're just like right up against each other. So it actually is doing something interesting, and it's a little sad that it's the end of this era.
I know. I would have liked it if they could have done a little more. It's a little too, but too little, too late. Is what I think
Exactly, yeah.
is. So it's impressive, but I would have liked to have seen it a lot sooner in the series. But uh, I do applaud the effort, and um, but yeah, the movie kind of ends after that. Again, the aliens get destroyed. They're not gorillas in this one, even though they're from the same planet. Like,
Yeah, I don't
one of
get
them
it.
rips off their face, and it just looks like this guy has a deformed face of some kind, and that's
Yeah.
supposedly the same alien. I have no
These
idea,
people don't
but
care about continuity.
no, clearly not. And which I don't know why they couldn't do that, because they just used cheap gorilla masks and painted them green in the last movie. So I don't know
Yeah.
why they couldn't do it again, but whatever. But the movie's supposed to end on a real tragic note, and I think, like, I don't know, like, I know they didn't 100% intend for this movie to be the last Godzilla movie, but seeing Godzilla like
Oh yeah,
wandering,
walking away.
walking away, it really has kind of like a weird finale to it.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree. It feels like a final goodbye. Like I'm walking away. I'm stepping away for a while. It feels right.
yeah, and that's what I was saying when I was getting like weirdly emotional to it. Like when I was watching that final scene, that's when it was kind of like all hitting me at once. Where it's like, wow, this is it. Like that's the last one, and I mean, the movies will stand the test of time, obviously, but it's just getting to re-experience them with a friend and all that. It was I was sad to see it end.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. It's definitely the end of something, and yeah, like
But
you said, it's emotional.
how did this movie do, Nathan? How did it do? How did
I
it stack up compared to the other ones?
I,
I'm
I know.
thinking big numbers,
Oh,
big
you think
numbers,
so? Yeah.
big money. But
Hmm.
is what I would like to have said, but instead, even as of today, this is the lowest performing Godzilla movie ever
God, that's crazy.
made. And it,
After like the semi success of the last one too.
yeah, so I don't know what it was. I mean, maybe it was because they're clearly not uh, trying to promote a lot of these movies to kids anymore. It's like this weird tone of like they're trying to get away from kids and they're trying to be a little more adult in this one. So maybe that scared some of the kids away, and maybe
Mm.
adults were still like, oh, well, those are just kids movies now, so I'm not even going to bother with it. So, um, and even now, I think there's a lot of reflection. Like one of the I was reading a quote from the special effects guy Nakano that was doing it for this movie is just like, I think at the end of the day we focus a little too much on making children's movies,
Hmm.
and I think that's a pretty fair argument. I mean, that's pretty much like later in the series, it's like kids are going to see these movies, and they trying to shy away from making it more cinematic and stories that draw you in, and it's just like just focus on the monsters, which you know kids like watching that, but when you actually try to step out of that box and try to make something like an actual good movie like this one's trying to do,
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, kids don't want to see that. They don't want to see a touching love story or anything like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I feel like that kind of killed it for a little bit for sure.
Yeah, very much just kind of like, oh man, like I very much like they wanted this movie to perform a lot better, and
Hmm.
um, that kind of sealed the deal for the movie. I think it's kind of at the point where fatigue is an understatement at this point. I mean,
Yes.
it's at this point, it's like they're out of ideas. They're having to make these contests where people are thinking of ideas for them. The original creators of the series is very much just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm so tired of working on these movies. All the actors involved, it's just all the actors from the original movies and series that were coming back and reprising and doing these energetic roles, they're getting old and
Yeah.
retiring. And so it's time to like hit the pause button here a little bit. And
Hmm.
that's what happens. They push pause on the series. This movie does come out in America. It does. There's two different versions of this movie. There's the Terror of Godzilla, which
Yep.
I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. And there's and there's also the Terror of Mechagodzilla. But one of them is a TV version, and they take out pretty much everything from the movie. Where they're like, so the operation scene totally out, the suicide angle totally
Yeah.
out. So it's
Gone.
like
Yeah.
they did. So the whole movie is just a complete confusing mess
Hmm.
where like Mechagodzilla just stops and they don't know why he stops apparently, and and they don't ever mention what happened to the female character in the movie again. So very confusing. And then there's also a theatrical version that's a little more um, available, and but for some reason like the TV version was the only available version for the longest time until they actually got like an unedited version of this movie.
Yeah. Did you watch this one at all growing up?
No, so this
Oh,
was
okay.
not part of the box set. So I was this was not one I was watching regularly. So I don't think I even watched this one until like much later in life. Like I think I
Really?
was, yeah. So I don't
So
think I
those
watched this.
versions aren't really like sticking out to you.
No, I mean,
Gotcha.
I would have remembered Titanosaurus in that roar. Trust me.
Yeah. No, that's definitely interesting. I would like to take the time and sit down and like compare the two maybe one day. I think that would be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, well, they there is a home video release, a Blu-ray version of this before, or maybe no, I'm sorry, a DVD release of this before the Criterion
Mm,
edition. So,
okay.
which does have both versions on it.
Oh,
So
that's really cool.
you could see it
Yeah,
if you
that's
really
one.
wanted to.
Since we're coming to the end, I might as well say this. I really like the Criterion set. It looks really nice, the pages, everything. I think the one thing missing, and we talked about this before, I really wish there's more special content, a little bit more other things on there as well.
Yeah, I mean, even just like putting the English dub, which they do for a couple of them,
Yeah.
but I would have liked to have had a little more of an option where I could kind of jump back and forth because, like I told you, I had to buy that DVD box set
Yeah.
while we were doing this series just so I could watch the English versions of these movies,
Right.
and I would have liked to have a little more, but maybe there's a podcast out there that reviews Criterion movies, that would what they would look like and everything.
Well, I wish it success.
Yeah, so that they could talk about that,
Hmm.
but incredible set though, regardless. But Nathan, let's close out Terror of Mechagodzilla. Would you give this movie a recommend?
I would. I would. I'd honestly give it a light recommend. I wouldn't say it's one of the standout movies to me, but it's still an enjoyable Godzilla movie, better than a good chunk of them. So yeah, if you're looking for a good time, it's worth it.
Yeah, I would give this road movie a pretty decent recommend. I mean,
Hmm.
it's got a real strong human element to it. The monster fighting is definitely above average compared to a lot of the other ones we've seen. So,
Hmm.
um, just speaking with those in mind, I mean, I thought it's definitely a worthy entry into the series. And Godzilla's over for now. So, what happens to Ishirō Honda? I mean, we've kind of built up this narrative leading up to
Hmm.
this point where he's kind of like this upstart director. He's doing a great job. So they give him this series, and then slowly over time, he's kind of losing his passion for the series. He's forced to make like all these monster movies that he's just like does not see the point in. But he's a
Hmm.
company man, and he makes this movie, and it's the worst God performing Godzilla movie ever made. So
Yeah.
what what's next in this man's life? Because I feel like it's appropriate we had to close the book on him too as well. And
Yeah.
so he does go into retirement, and like I said, he is friends with Akira Kurosawa, probably the most influential Japanese director
Yeah.
ever. And you know, uh, they say what the story kind of goes is like they're out playing golf, and Kurosawa is just kind of like, well, what are you doing with your life? He's like, well, I'm retired. He's like, no, you're not retired.
You're
That's
getting
like
back to movies.
you're getting back to the movies. And he actually comes and works with Akira Kurosawa on probably some of the biggest movies ever made.
Yeah, I actually thought that was really surprising. I didn't know Honda had his hand in like the end of Kurosawa's career, pretty much. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
the last five movies of Akira Kurosawa's career, um, Honda was pretty much working there. So allegedly at the time is that Akira Kurosawa was losing his eyesight,
hmm,
and uh, Shiro Honda was pretty much there to kind of help him out and be a director. And Kurosawa valued Ishiro Honda's opinion so much that he was viewed as his right hand man, and Kurosawa told everybody on set, if anything comes out of Honda's mouth, just assume it came out of my mouth too. Like give him the same respect that you would me.
Yeah, because I always heard those stories that he was blind, so I'm sure Honda had more of a grip on a lot of the cinematography, which is crazy. Because have you ever seen Ran?
I have, and Rand's
Yeah,
probably like one of the most beautiful movies ever made.
exactly. That movie is gorgeous, and so that definitely like. Could you imagine a Godzilla movie that looked like Ran? That would be absolutely
Oh,
nuts.
they would. I would love for them to give a budget like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, but they. But he does. So I think he does reignite his passion for movies. He gets to work on some of the most influential movies that have
hmm
been made. Kagamusha, Ran, just to name a few, and he ends his career in 1993 working on his last movie, and then he ends up dying later that year.
hmm
And I think it was funny. Like there was one story that kind of relayed, like Martin Scorsese is in a Akira Kurosawa movie,
yeah.
and he valued Ishirō Honda so much that he like wanted to get a picture with him. So
Yeah, yeah. I think he said that the only reason he came to Japan was to get a picture with him, and he's in a Kurosawa movie playing Vincent Van Gogh.
yeah, it was just pretty funny stuff. But
Yeah,
um, anyway, yeah, he goes on to have that career, and I think he finally gets his due.
I think so too. It sounds like he got to do something really special rather than being pigeonholed, which I think that I'm sure that was incredible for him.
Um, One thing too, I didn't really say. So another reason why the Terror Mechagodzilla didn't do so well is because American imported movies, were actually outperforming
Yeah.
Japanese domestic movies. So one of them, which I read in the book, which was one of the nuggets I took, is that this year, Towering Inferno, that came out the
Oh,
same year, which is an American-made movie, was like the highest-grossing movie in Japan at the time, I believe.
wow.
So
I know that movie was a huge deal.
right, and uh, movies like The Godfather and Jaws, just like these mega blockbuster movies, like these game changers, were outselling movies like worldwide. So
Mhm.
it at that point, and even Disney movies at the time, they were
Yeah.
talking about like it was cheaper to import a Disney movie and like license it and then release it in Japan and do all the dubbing and all that. It was cheaper to do that than make a whole movie, and that movie would still make more than like a movie that they made.
That's insane to think about. And that's 70s Disney too, which is
Yeah, so
not
that's
considered like a golden era for them.
no, but it's just they're like probably like Robin Hood or something like that was
Yeah.
like outperforming Godzilla, Terror Mecha Godzilla, just like James Bond. Godzilla will return, and Godzilla returns.
Yeah. And we'll get there at some point, right?
One of these days we will get there.
hmm
Yes,
Yeah.
I promise you we will. But that's it, Nathan, for Terra Mecha Godzilla. So where do we go from here? Well, this is a 200th episode, so we're gonna give you a jam-packed episode because this episode's not over yet.
Yeah, we still got a lot more to go. Yeah, if you click your little phone, you see that you still got a little bit of a chunk left. This is why.
Can you imagine like somebody just like they download this episode and they see the runtime, they're just like I just like shit their pants.
It's longer than the movie.
No, but yeah, we wanted to make this extra special, so we wanted to add like a nice little retrospective to this one.
hmm
So, uh, one thing I do, so I had just a couple of questions that I wanted to ask each of us. So, uh, other than Godzilla, who is your favorite monster?
Can you guess it?
I mean, I know what it is, but I want to hear you say it.
It's Mothra. I love
Yeah,
Mothra so much, and it really makes me so sad. And I get it, hard to handle to have so many people work on it, but I love Mothra. I don't know. There's something about her. I think absolutely rocks. Just a great design. When I see Mothra fly, it just looks really cool. When Mothra takes wing, it's beautiful.
It kind of rocks your socks.
It rocks my socks. But Ryan,
Yeah.
what yours is? You go ahead and say it. I won't steal your thunder.
This may surprise you, but it's not Angerus.
No, okay.
It's actually I had a newfound appreciation, especially after doing his solo movie and then seeing him in other movies. It's got to be Rodan for me. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I probably my favorite non Godzilla movie that we covered of the other Toho movies. Just great story, great cinematic touch to it. I really loved Rodan and other movies, like how silly he was. Like there's the scene where Rodan's coming out of the dirt, like coming up from underground. He's kind of just like, "Hey, like,
hey, buddy." Yeah, no,
yeah,
no. Rodan was like one of my favorites, definitely. Another one that was sad to like see not pop back up again very often.
yeah." I mean, as it got later, I mean, we didn't really see a whole lot of
Yeah, true.
Rodan, but he does have a lasting effect, and he does appear in Godzilla King of Monsters. So I mean, it's not like he went
Okay.
away forever. So
Yeah, true. And let's hope he's in the soccer game too.
didn't you say he was?
Oh, he's part of the squad. That's right. So
Yeah,
you gotta play it.
yeah, I gotta play it now.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely love Rodan. I also do you have a favorite score? I mean, because other than the Godzilla theme, is there any other particular music that stands out for you?
It's funny, I was thinking about this the other day. And to be honest, there's not one in particular that really stands out to me except Ebera's score. And I know that's weird because it's like surf rock and it's so different, but I think that's why it stood out. It like it's just really interesting, and I don't know, it's really cool.
I was thinking the same thing because I was thinking like when I was doing the rankings for
Hmm.
this, which we'll talk about here in a minute, was I was like I was when I thought of the movie Ebra, I was like, that I was thinking of like the surf music and everything that was
Yeah,
just so different, and I was just like, yeah, that's pretty good. I
yeah.
I wouldn't have thought to do that.
But I will say Ikafube, anytime he's on the score, you can tell he does a really good way of pulling out great themes. I think usually whenever he was doing music, especially that Godzilla march, is just iconic. So I mean, he deserves a shout out himself.
Yeah, and he did come back for that final movie too. I didn't
Yeah,
mention it in
and I think he
American
did good
Godzilla.
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely good. Uh, the other one too, it's so silly, but I think about it a lot. It's the Godzilla like hero music, like
Yeah, that's a good one too. I like that. God, you got to also give a shout out to like the actual songs that people sang in these, which actually happened quite a bit, like the
oh
Mothra song.
oh, Save the Earth is like on my playlist. Like I love listening to Save the Earth.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, and I think that one movie also had a pretty good score as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Bono, I mean, he definitely an underappreciated director. So
totally agree. Yeah.
um I really like a lot of the scores for me. Now there are some trash ones in there. I'm not gonna lie. Like pretty much all monsters attack with like the woman screaming like at the
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
intro. Just like why? Just
Yeah.
um. But so we always talk about uh the roars a lot.
Hmm.
Um, Godzilla for me, it's iconic roar, all that. What is a roar or roars that you like to hear?
Good Lord, you were really throwing like a curveball at me on that one. I got to think about that one. Um, I hate it. It's because we were talking about Gabara. I keep thinking about Gabara's roar. Uh, I think it's. Yeah, I for whatever reason my mind goes to that one. And Godzilla, of course. Godzilla has an incredible roar. I'm trying to remember, for some reason I need to listen to it again. Did Varen have a cool roar? Because I'm thinking of Varen.
I don't remember him having an extraordinary roar. I think it was just kind of like a modified Godzilla one, if I'm not mistaken. But
Oh, gotcha. Maybe that's why it was fine.
um,
Son of Godzilla, Minya.
yeah, of course, Minya
Hmm,
with his
hmm.
little squeaking.
Uh-huh, yeah. And of course the Godzilla told me to fight my own battle.
Wow.
That's a
Godzilla
roar, right?
says I learned to fight my own battles, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I think
Uh,
that's more of a question for you. You really you have a love for the roars.
I love hearing the roar and
Hmm.
like just like the different modifications and instruments for animal noises they used. I mean,
Hmm.
right off the bat, other than Godzilla, because Godzilla is my favorite roar, but other than that, the two that I always think of are Angerus,
Of
which
course.
sounds like
Oh.
which sounds like that.
Mhm.
I just anytime I hear that, I love it so much, and
Mhm.
I don't and just the Ghidorah roar with the
Yeah, the right, like it's like almost electronic-y. That one's really cool.
yeah, which sounds like this. I don't know, like that one just it strikes such a chord with me. Like I
Hmm.
just that one, I mean, Ghidorah, every time I hear that roar, I immediately I know what that is. Like if I hear anything like that, I just like, oh, it's Ghidorah. Like because that roar does get sampled in other movies. So
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't Evangelion use that noise.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So I anytime I hear that, it just hits different.
I
But
get it. I get it.
uh,
It pierces the eardrums well.
uh, so the other big category is another one we talk about is Godzilla suits.
Hmm.
So there are let me pull it up just so I have the exact amount. There are 8 different Godzilla costumes, and I'm going to read each one. It's the Shodai Goji suit, which is the original Godzilla suit from the 1954 movie, which, just to give you a visual idea, was seen in black and white. That was like the one
Hmm.
where Godzilla actually had ears on him. He had more pronounced fangs on him. He had a lot more of scars and battle damage from radiation. Look, you know, they're trying to make him as menacing as possible. Probably the biggest looking costume because it was so
Yeah,
bulky and
chunky. Yeah.
yeah, just very much like a very big imposing monster. The other one is the Guy Kushu Goji suit, which is from the Godzilla raids again, and
Hmm.
it's not a bad looking suit. I'm not gonna lie, but
It's a good start after the original.
now there are some close up moments of the suit where it's like when it's like full on shots of the face.
Yeah.
I yeah, it looks doesn't look great there,
Hmm.
and the other one is probably the Kin Goji suit, and that is from Godzilla versus King Kong,
Hmm.
and uh, probably the suit I would say everyone recognizes Godzilla the most from. If I'm gonna
Yeah, I remember
make
like
an
seeing that one and being like, yeah, that looks right. Like on T-shirts and stuff. That's what you see.
yeah, and uh, I like the profile shot of this one, but I'm not gonna say all my opinions just yet. But the other one is the Mushu Goji suit, which is from Godzilla versus Mothra, which that one has the very pronounced eyebrows. They're trying to make Godzilla look as evil as possible, and this
Yeah.
one like just looks like a total villain in it. And uh, you know, I that one is also like there's that really famous GIF of Godzilla where he's doing like the stare down, like
Yeah.
that's that suit. So that one's also a very memorable suit. The next one is from the Daisenso Goji suit, which is from Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and
Hmm.
Ghidorah the three-headed monster as
I didn't
well.
realize how much he changed suits so early in the movies.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much like a different head, like in almost every movie. The next one is the Musuko Goji suit, which is the one from Son of Godzilla,
Yep.
which I think we both were like, that's the worst thing ever. Like, like it's awful. I mean, just
Yeah.
it does not look good at all, and I'll leave it at that. And then the next one is the Soshin Geki Goji suit, which is from movies like Hidora, I believe, as well. So
Okay.
those types of movies. And then the other one is the Megarogoji suit, which is from the last three movies that we've done, which
Yeah.
is Megalon and the two Mechagodzilla movies. So Nathan, out of those 8 suits that I mentioned, which one would you say is your favorite?
You know, it's crazy to say this, and I don't know if it's because I just watched them, but I think the last one is the best one. I think the Megoro Goji suit just looks right to me. I really like the way the eyes look, the face. Like we talked about during the episode, it matches like this anger level, but he's still really likable. And I think it's the best put together suit.
Yeah, and I'm going to mirror that.
Yeah.
So I may even give the edge even to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which has a slightly different
Mm.
head to it, but it's still very much a suit that I appreciate. And it's when I was a kid, like I said, I watched Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla a lot,
Mm.
and that's probably the suit that I think of the most. And to me, like it feels right looking at it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It feels like the correct one.
So I'm going to pull a surprise on you right now. I did a poll of of the Godzilla suits, and
Okay.
I asked everyone that you and I know, and
Okay. Okay.
and I asked all my friends on Discord and other Discord channels. So
Hmm.
I got got about 17 people to participate in
Wow,
this.
holy crap. Okay, cool.
So there was one person that picked the Godzilla Raids Again suit was their favorite. So
Really? So one person?
yep, one person picked that,
Okay.
and the other one, there was 2 people that picked the 1954 suit and said it was the most classic one. Can't argue with
I
them there.
can't argue with that. Yeah.
And then 2 people actually said the one from Ebra and Astro Monster and all that. So
That one's not bad either, though.
no,
I like that one.
I like the one in. If I was gonna, it'd be the Ghidorah, the three-headed monster version one. The one in
Yeah.
Astro Monster, he's looking a little too frog-like for my
I
taste.
gotcha. Yeah.
Uh, 3 people picked the Mothra one.
Okay, so the Kingoji one,
No, the other one, the
the most
Mushu.
Musuka. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, 3 people picked that, and then a whopping 9 people picked the King Goji suit. So,
Yeah, that was the other one for me. I was kind of like that one's like for a classic Godzilla, that's a good pick.
and what I was kind of alluding to when I was saying those suits, so I would have picked that one. The thing that draws it back the most for me is profile shot. If I were going strictly based off profile, that one would win.
Hmm.
When you do a full on face shot of it, it looks so stupid. It,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah, no,
about.
I totally agree, actually.
Like it looks so great on the
Hmm.
profile, and then like when you turn its head to do a full on face shot, it's just like the face is real narrow,
Hmm.
and just because like all the details in the costume are on the sides, so and
Exactly.
he's got this big grin looking thing like on him, and
Yeah. No,
so
I could see
but
that.
that but again, these are all non-Godzilla fans that did
Mhm.
this, and I they're going strictly based off of the pictures that I would send them, and they were like, oh yeah, it looks great. So kudos to those people. Thank you so much for
So,
participating.
But nobody picked the the one that we picked.
No, no.
Wow.
Which, to be fair, they picked the one of the three that I would not have picked. If it looked like that same face as the one from Megalon, I don't
Yeah,
know if I would have picked that one either, to be
I
fair.
gotcha. Yeah.
But because I know of the Mechagodzilla ones, that's the one I picked.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's it for suits, and great job with on the suits. So this is the main event of this portion,
Yes.
and it's going to be the ranking. So I was trying to figure out how to go about doing this. So I thought we would kind of take turns, I guess, saying what our rankings are, and then I'll say mine, and then you could say yours.
Okay, starting from the bottom.
Right. So there's 15 movies, so I'm starting at number 15, which is going to be All Monsters Attack. That
Really?
is.
Okay.
Hey, if you want to put that at number 2 or 3, that's your business. But
Or one.
or 1, hey, that's more power to you. Just you can go back and listen to all of our episodes for our opinions of these, but with it being a clip show and just not a great story. And I want to make a disclaimer: I don't hate any of these movies either.
No, neither do I.
There's some that are better than others, but I would easily rewatch almost any of these. So,
but All
but
Monsters Attack is easily the worst one of the bunch, though.
yeah,
Still, even then, it's like it's just easy to say that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a big secret that was going to be your last one either. But
Yeah.
My number 14 would probably be Godzilla Raids Again. It's
okay. This one I didn't know that we were going to match up on, but yeah, Godzilla Raids Again is my number 14 as well.
Okay, so that one really, I mean, it had potential with it. Just not just the budget in that one is so minuscule. They don't just the human characters I did not really like that much. Just really annoying. It's just some really bad shots in there too, of like especially like the little Godzilla figurine, like they do the aerial shot from. Just
think
not the most exciting one.
This one was probably the least memorable. This one was making the ranking. I really had to like dig into my memory on like what was going on in this one, and I think that's just its biggest thing. It's just uneventful. It's kind of, I can't believe they got to make more after this.
Yeah, very surprising.
Yeah.
So we might differ here, and
Yeah.
if we do, don't if you don't tell me what your number 13 is, if we do differ.
Okay, but if we do differ, tell you.
If we're the same, you could say yes, that's my number 13.
Okay, gotcha.
But if we differ, don't tell me what your 13 is. But
okay.
So number 13 for me, this might be a little bit of a shocker, is Destroy All Monsters.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
So the final like 5-7 minutes or 10 minutes when we actually see them all teaming up together, amazing, like one of the most amazing scenes in the entire series. But I don't know, just watching that and like the build up to it, and just we kind of got like a movie that wasn't that exciting, and just a movie that I was expecting a lot more out of. Like even as a kid, is Destroy All Monsters was not a favorite of mine. Like I remember watching it and being so hyped, like, oh, my monsters are on one big screen, like, oh my god. And then you watch it and it's just kind of like, oh, like you're like waiting like an hour and a half for monsters to show up, and there's really only like 3 or 4 scenes where like monsters are in it, and it's just kind of like this rehashed alien plot line.
Yeah, well, I guess I will say my number 13.
Yeah.
I think it's going to upset you. Son of Godzilla is really low.
Yeah. We differ
like,
there.
Yeah, which is crazy. I feel like our rankings list, we end up like pretty close to each other. But yeah, Son of Godzilla, I just wasn't as into. There are memorable moments, and there's moments I like Minya riding on Godzilla's tail, jump roping and stuff. But I think as a Godzilla movie, it doesn't really work as well for me. So I just wasn't. If I was to pick one, I'd rewatch. That wouldn't be one of them.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I really well, I'll get into that when I hit that ranking, but
Hmm.
I don't blame you. I knew you weren't wild about that one.
Hmm.
So my number 12 would actually be Invasion of the Astro Monster.
Okay. Wow.
And that might seem a little low, but
Hmm.
again, I'm very, very biased for Godzilla. So I
I get it.
probably this movie, probably the best human plot line, maybe of the entire series. Well, I don't know. There's actually definitely one of the best of the entire
Yes.
series,
It's
and
what I remember most of this movie, I feel like.
yeah, I mean, it's got a great, probably the best sci-fi movie. I'll say that of the
Mm,
entire series. Like it's got a great plot point of it. Very strong human characters. But I'm here at the end of the day to see Godzilla, and I don't feel like I really got a ton of that because I mean, it's two scenes that he's in there, and we don't really, and he doesn't really show up until the very end of the movie.
yeah, I get that. I get that.
So
Um,
I guess we kind of deviated. But what's your number 12,
and
Nathan?
my number 12 is Destroy All Monsters, which you just talked about, mirroring exactly what you said. It's such a like it feels like a cop out. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just like, oh, we get to see all these monsters just for them to only be in the movie for a little bit. And that fight's really cool, but everything leading up to it just really isn't there. So it's one of the lower tiered ones for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even get to see that much Varen.
I love Varen. I mean, I would love to see more Varen. So
Yeah, who wouldn't?
yeah.
um, so my number 11 is Son of Godzilla.
Okay.
Um, I
I
did
thought
enjoy. Oh, you thought it'd be higher?
I did, because I know this one's you're a little more nostalgic for it, right?
I am, but I'm trying to think. Knowing what I know now about the movies and doing all these deep dives, which I had never did before, and then watching a lot
Mm,
of these, I do have more appreciation for other ones. Now, I still highly love Son of Godzilla. In fact, I would probably watch this one over some of the ones I have ranked higher than that. But
mm,
in terms of quality and things like that, um, and just the other thing too, probably holding it back is the villain or the other monster is just a giant spider,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's just. I mean, it's interesting, but at no point did I ever think it was like a threat to Godzilla.
Hmm. No, exactly. It's not the strongest villain that we have, but
Number
I
11
guess
for you?
yeah, my number 11. And I'll be honest that we hit a pocket, and where I felt like there's a little pocket in the middle of my list where the rankings are a little arbitrary. Like I like a lot of them on the same level, so it's a little small. But I went ahead and put King Kong versus Godzilla here. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a fun movie. I like the movie. I guess I put it lower, and this might seem like a nitpick reason because I was like, the King Kong costume's really bad, really goofy looking costume. This one has sillier moments that, like him riding on the balloons, that is memorable, but it's just like, I don't know if I love that, but still, it's solid.
So I actually rewatched a lot of I didn't watch the whole movies of all these leading up to it,
Hmm.
but I was kind of like watching like the best of scenes from a lot of
Hmm.
these like before I made my rankings just to kind of
Gotcha.
give
Refresh
myself a
yourself.
look, give my little refresher. And the fights in King Kong, well, I'm getting way ahead. What am I doing? Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Yeah, go for it.
but no, I'm surprised that it's that lower. I thought you'd have that one a little higher,
Yeah,
honestly.
I get it.
All right, my number 10 is Godzilla versus Gigan.
Hmm.
Um, again, super nostalgic for this one. definitely one I've seen multiple times. I think there's a lot of good in it. You know, Godzilla gets beaten up a lot, but the human story is a little too bland, like to keep it to make it any higher. I know they kind
Mhm.
of do like a little Scooby Doo type of mystery or whatever. I believe in this
Yeah,
one,
that was that one. Yeah.
and I wasn't really feeling it too much. So, but again, really incredible fight scenes, and that's why it's much higher than it normally is. So I gave this one my number 10 spot.
I did too. I'm popping in. Yeah, I put this one at my number 10 slot. Once again, solid movie. If I remember right, Ghidorah is in he or Ghidorah is in this one, right? But I feel like he's a little underused. Yeah, yeah, he is because they fly around the stupid little tower.
Well,
Um,
they do that and they reuse all the footage from like Destroy All Monsters and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Like, and he just stands there the whole movie pretty much. Like a lot the new footage.
Exactly. But I like Gigan. I think Gigan's I do like him as like a character. So I think I put that one a little bit higher, but you know, I mirror pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah. It's still a great entry. And
Yeah.
number 9, maybe another controversial one for you. I don't know. Godzilla versus Mothra.
Wow, yeah, that is controversial. I'm upset. I'm angry.
You're angry. You're throwing. Stop
I'm
throwing shit.
angry. Yeah, yeah. I'm throwing shit. I'm destroying miniature cities. Yeah.
uh, you know, it's my really good story. Not gonna. It got a great human element to it. I
Mm,
love the Shobijin, the peanuts,
yes, yeah.
the little fairy girls. I but you know, the thing that I guess kind of holds it back, and I do like Mothra, you know, even though I joke about it, but the fight in this one is just so silly in my opinion. It's just like it's completely one-sided almost, like the entire
Yeah,
fight.
I gotcha.
And it just I never really felt like there was like this even matchup between the two. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what's holding it back a little bit from being the highest. I mean, I know a lot of people hold that one in high regard, but it would not be a number one for me or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Well, my number 9 is Terror of Mechagodzilla. So this episode's namesake. And we just talked about it, so I don't want to go too in depth into it. It's good. I put it under the other Mechagodzilla because I liked Mechagodzilla in the other one a lot better. I think this one he's just like not. It's not the same. Human plot is really good though, and I think that put not really good, but it's better than a lot of the ones from before. So I think that's why it ends up right here.
Well, that one's my number 8, so this is a
Okay,
good segue.
cool.
So it's again it's not my favorite of the Mechagodzilla movies, but it's got a strong human story in
Hmm.
there, and it's very much reminds me of older Godzilla movies from like 10 years before that, and great monsters in this one, good fight scenes, very good, very strong way to end the series. So it's gets a higher ranking for me.
Hmm.
But yeah, not in terms of Mecha Godzilla one, the other one would it's going to rank higher for me.
Yeah. Um, my number 8 is Godzilla versus Megalon, actually, which is a fun movie. I like that one. It's got Jet Jaguar. You can't go wrong. And another one of those weird '70s ones. I feel like at the end it just got so crazy. I just remember having a lot of fun with Godzilla versus Megalon. So I'm just gonna throw that in here.
Definitely, yeah.
Hmm.
So my number 7 is going to be Ebra, Horror of the Deep,
Okay.
uh, which is probably other than the first movie, because I feel like I have to put like an asterisk for like anything I talk about, because I don't think that's going to be a big spoiler, but probably my favorite human movie other than of the
Hmm.
sequels. Like I remember I said I was like, even if you took the monster like out of the movie, I still think it would be a really fun movie because it's just like like the kids, like they snuck away on the boat
Mm-hmm.
and they're riding into like this hidden island, and all these people are being held captive and
Mm-hmm.
all that. I really enjoyed the story of that one, and this one it's got like the great scene of like Godzilla and Ebra playing volleyball. There's the scene of Godzilla ripping off Ebra's claws and like using it like clapping the claws together. It's good
Yeah.
stuff. So I definitely a very good one for me.
Yeah. My number 7 is Invasion of the After Monster, which I know you put a little bit lower. I like this one because I do really like the human plot on this one. I think it's a really fun, engaging story that pairs well with the monster fight. Once again, we got Ghidorah, who is excellent as usual, and I think I have a lot of fun with this one. When I think about like Godzilla sequels, this one pops up a lot for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame you one bit for having that one. I mean, that
Yeah.
one's actually ranked pretty high for other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably got the most famous scene where it's Godzilla doing his little jump in the dance. So
Yes, you gotta love it.
so
Which one is the one with the tail slide?
that's Megalon.
Megalon. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
But I don't blame you one bit. It's probably in terms of originality, that one's it's great.
Hmm.
Um, so my number 6 is going to be King Kong versus Godzilla.
Okay. Yeah, and you have to say what brought you to that.
Right. So what brought me to that? The reason why it ranks so higher for me than for you, I would say, is because that's the movie that got me started into this whole fandom.
Hmm.
If I didn't watch that movie, I would not have. I wouldn't. We wouldn't be talking about it right now.
I
So
gotcha. Yeah.
it. I seen that movie. Not the most out of them, but I definitely probably the one I remember. Like I literally remember VHS tape in my hand and watching it and buying it that day. I remember that day still.
Hmm.
So it's got a special place in my heart. The fight scenes though, it's still really good. I remember even I was rewatching it today actually,
Hmm.
like in preparation for this, and it's just like fight scenes are great. It's got a little comedic edge to it where like Godzilla falls, or they both fall. Like King Kong slides into Godzilla and they tumble down the hill, and
Hmm.
King Kong's like rubbing his butt because it hurt his butt, and
That's right.
just
Yeah.
and they do. I mean, yeah, the King Kong costume is trash. It looks awful, but just a really good and like the story in that one's good as well too. The ad agencies like wanting King Kong to promote their items, so
That's right.
it's just such a goofy idea, but very iconic movie for me.
No, and I get that. I like that context. Um, my number 6 is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which we just covered. Really great intro to a really iconic character. Mechagodzilla is awesome in this, and I really think this is one of the best shot ones. I didn't get to say much about that, but like just the fire and the explosions surrounding them and just the way it's lit. I think all the fighting is really good in this one. And the human plot's a little weaker, but it's still a fun human plot. It's still enjoyable to watch. So that's why this one gets ranked up higher.
Definitely. And my number 5, which you mentioned already, is Godzilla versus Megalon.
Mm,
Uh,
that tail slide.
so this is controversial for the Godzilla community because this one usually ranks pretty low, but I think it's pretty clear, and because there's usually two camps for Godzilla. It's like, do you prefer the more serious movies or do you prefer the more campy movies?
Hmm.
I'm 100% camp. Like I just like I love the
Hmm.
silly, more sillier natures of it. And like I said, I wish I would have watched this one growing up a little more, but I have such appreciation. Jet Jaguar is just
Hmm.
awesome to me. Like I want more
Yeah.
Jet Jaguar. I wish there was a solo Jet Jaguar
I
movie,
think
but
I think it was this one on the podcast. I asked you like, "Oh, did you watch this one as a kid?" Because it was like, yeah, this would be really good as a kid. I think that one was like really wrestling centric. Like it was a lot of grappling and stuff like that.
Well, you remember Godzilla when he shows up, he's like he's doing like the boxer, like pumping his
Yeah.
fists, and then like and then he does like the
Yeah.
like 'cause I was watching that earlier today too, and I was just like, yeah, this is still good stuff, and just
Hmm.
uh, more stock footage in that one though, so that's one thing that's a little bad, but you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not super noticeable for me.
Hmm.
Um, so, but it's definitely top five for me. I love it.
Well, getting into my top five, we're talking about one that you talked about a while ago, Mothra versus Godzilla. I really love the human plot of this one. I and I it's got Mothra. You really can't go wrong with it. Like you said, there is a little bit less Godzilla, but I think the human plot really, and I think now I'm like ranking these. I think I like a really strong human plot to complement the monsters. I'm starting to realize that, and I think this one has that. This one's a lot of fun, and I can't go wrong with Mothra. So
No, I mean, I like I said, this is I'm being a little I'm a little unfair to it. And other disclaimer too that I want to say for these rankings is that if I rewatch some of these two, I could easily see these rankings changing.
oh yeah, these are not definitive in any way.
Yeah, these could easily change.
Yeah.
So if one day maybe I'll watch Godzilla versus Mothra and be more entertained by it than the other one. So who knows?
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I don't fault you one bit for having it in the top five.
Yeah.
Um, my number four, one you mentioned already, is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Hmm.
Uh, super nostalgic for me. Just like one of the biggest like 10 out of 10 like movie like for me like my top four is like the best ones in my opinion.
Okay,
Like
gotcha.
I could rewatch. It's a different tier, so it's these are like S tier for me. Like I could
Hmm.
rewatch these next four movies like over and over again. Mech Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. Like you said, the human plot line's a little better in Terra Mecha Godzilla, but it's still strong enough to stand on its own. And just the fight scenes alone, Caesar, and just all that added up, like the scene where Anguirus getting his jaw ripped off, you know, upsetting as it is, but it's still like completely memorable. Like it's just like I remember seeing it as a kid and just like etched into my brain.
Yeah.
And so like I just can't say enough about it.
Yeah, and no, and I totally get like why you have it up so high. It's a good one. I mean, like that one wasn't that far off. But my next one, number four, is Godzilla versus Hedorah. That one was a huge surprise to me. A lot of fun. It's funky, and that's what I like about it. Is it's the weirdest one of the bunch. It has like the animated sequences. It's got a smog monster. Like that is so weird, and I love that about that.
Let me like were you when I know when we watched it, I know you had never seen it that but like compared to now when you're doing your rankings, did you expect it to be like that high? Like by the time we were done
No,
with the series?
I thought it was a joke because I had heard of the Godzilla versus the smog monster, and I was like, that has to be garbage. That has to be like one of the worst ones. That is the dumbest idea. And I think it works pretty well. And it actually ends up being like one of the more horrifying ones. Like I think about that cat being covered in black goop. I don't know. It's actually I did not expect it to be my number four pick.
Definitely, yeah. No, I completely get that. But uh, so my number three is actually going to be Ghidorah, the three-headed monster,
Mm. Oh
and
yeah.
it's and which I'll get into why it's not number two, but
Mm.
it's because when I talk about number two, but this one, other than the top two, like probably the best of the Godzilla sequels. I mean,
Mhm.
just everything is just firing on all cylinders. It's just the humans are good, the writing, the directing, the the monster action is like so good in this one, and
Mhm.
it's very much like works on all kinds of different levels for me. I absolutely love this one, and this one also was in my box set growing up as a kid, so I would watch this one quite a bit. Just like the sillier scenes too, just like with like the three monsters arguing, like talking about like debating on if they should even help the humans is just like
Hmm.
so funny. Like just like you wouldn't even expect that. Like they would never do that like in like a Godzilla movie today, like at all. It's
No.
just like everything's got to be so serious, which I mean I kind of get, but you know I do like the more sillier elements, like I said. So just phenomenal movie.
Yeah. And I'll get to that one soon. But my number three is Ebra.
Wow.
I love this movie. It's the one I think about a lot. I didn't think it would rank this high. Once again, like Hedorah, I just thought, a crab monster, but the human plot is really like endearing in this one. I really like the boat, the travel, the whole thief thing, the thing about going under the island, and I think Godzilla's some of his iconic fights are here. Like I love the underwater fight. There's just something about him being underwater fighting that's really cool. You don't see that again. And the volleyball scene, like that volleyball scene, is so like good. I think about that all the time. So I think this is one of the more fun ones. I like this one a lot.
You know, that's the one I like. I That's probably the one I thought about the most when I was doing these rankings. Like I
Yeah.
was like, and honestly, my ranking for it would probably go higher if I
Mhm.
watched it again, maybe. But because I was the other thing too, like the scene they use a lot, which I think is kind of funny, is like when the island's exploding and they're like, Godzilla, get off the island, and he jumps off like he does like a cannonball
Yeah, I
into the
love it.
water. So just to avoid all those explosions. But no, I'm so I could totally see that being like top three
Yeah,
for
oh
you.
yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
that means your number two is a good pick.
yeah. So my number two is the original Godzilla. No,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
no, I can't. I as much as I would want to do that, I in my heart I know that's not right. So, uh, uh, my number two is Godzilla versus Hedorah. Um, I said this on the podcast, and I've it's this is my favorite Godzilla movie to watch. In terms of
Mhm.
quality, the original movie is better, but it's my favorite Godzilla movie.
I get it. Yeah.
I I could watch this movie on repeat. It's probably the movie with the most Godzilla in it. It does so many oddball things like you just would
Hmm.
not expect, and they don't ever do again, which is a shame. But it's like this weird psychedelic movie, but it's also got like this extremely hammy like environmental message, and
Yeah.
like you said, like it's the closest thing to a horror movie that we have. It's like all these people
Hmm.
are getting like are dying. You're seeing dead bodies in the street, you're seeing
Yeah.
skeletons, and it's just so creepy. You wouldn't expect to see this in a Godzilla movie. And like I said, just I remember even as a kid just rewatching like the scene where Godzilla has like Hedorah's eyeballs and just like they turn
Yeah.
into dust, and then he's ripping out all the guts and everything at the end of the movie. It's just I remember that movie so much, and I like I said, it's the movie I've seen the most, and I probably will watch again, not before too long.
Yeah. I think that's the one that I think more people need to rewatch. I mean, I guess I don't know the Godzilla fan base very much, but I feel like people make fun of this one, but I really think people need to give this one another chance, or at least another look.
It's one of the lower ranked ones, and because you know a lot of people don't like the campier Godzilla, but like I said, I'm completely on the campier side.
Hmm.
It's not that the formula for Godzilla is bad, but at this point we had seen so many of the Godzilla ones, like you needed to try changing up just a little bit.
Yeah, just
And
something new.
I think this movie like does something completely different, like you would never ever see in a Godzilla movie, something that we had never seen before, and so much so that they were just like, we can't do that again, which is a shame.
I know it's sad. There wasn't like a trilogy of really weird like Godzilla movies or something, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Um, well, my number two, you can guess, is Ghidorah the three-headed monster. This one was just a fantastic movie as far as like what I expect from a Godzilla sequel. Just absolutely incredible fights. Like the fight between like you have it's Mothra and Rodan show up, and it's just like a really like incredible team up. And it's not like the later ones where we're getting like a bunch of shots from other movies. This is all original fights, and no, it's really just a solid monster battle movie. It's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, can't say enough good things about it. I mean, just in terms of a team up movie, it's the best one out of all of
Mm-hmm.
them, and probably the best movie where Godzilla teams up with another monster to
Yeah,
take on Ghidorah.
for sure.
Um, and Ghidorah, like I said earlier, and when the roar thing, it's just like
Yeah,
such an iconic bad guy, like in a movie.
and that's 100% his best role. Like that's his best movie with him in it.
Yeah,
Just fantastic.
totally agree.
So what's
Now
your number one?
number one is All Monsters Attack.
I just
I
went
like it. I
around.
love it. And, I love it and hate it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Don't we all?
uh, no, I. It's the 1954 Godzilla movie. I mean, in fact, like like I said, it was not a very strong movie for me growing up, just because I wanted Godzilla fighting another monster, and he
Yeah.
doesn't do that in this movie. But I, having rewatched it not that long ago and rewatched it a bunch more since then, it's I have an unending respect for this movie. And doing the deep dive that you and I did, watching documentaries, reading all these books, it's just crazy to think, like what this movie did. And it's just, out of all the other ones, this one is a masterpiece, in my opinion. I mean, it's just, it's such a strong movie. I mean, it's got, probably, when I was kind of given the asterisk about like Ebra and having like the best human element, best human story, it's like, for me, like this one, it's like it actually feels like
Yeah.
a cinematic movie with like real people and real drama, real
Mm.
feeling. It's like it actually feels like a cinematic movie and not just a B movie.
No, exactly. I think that's what makes it stand out is not that the other ones are tongue in cheek, but it starts to become like it knows what it is. It's a monster movie, it needs fights and all that. Where this one's like it treats it with like dead seriousness. Like Godzilla is a natural disaster, and we're watching people die along the way. And I don't know, it plays it seriously and it does it well.
Yeah.
And that's very commendable.
And the human characters, like I said, they're not just some cookie cutter like protagonist, like, oh, I'm the main guy, which means I'm a good guy or whatever. It's
Yeah,
like Dr. Sarazawa, he's like, so conflicted because he has the invention to do that, but he doesn't want it to fall into like government hands, and they, just like that whole plot line. Like I remember that. Like I can actually tell you what the personalities of these characters are. Like I can't do that for the other movies.
hmm yeah,
So
exactly. No, I mean, no, I mean, I just 100%. And like, if there's a character I think of, it's Sarazawa. I think about him and his sacrifice he makes, which is funny because the last movie we talk about has a sacrifice in it. But it feels like, and it actually has a downer ending. I'm pretty sure other ones had downer endings, but this one's like the most like glum
yeah,
of them all.
it's just funny because like at the end of Raids Again, which is the next movie, like everyone's so happy, like Godzilla's done for, yay, like type of thing. And now,
Yeah,
but this one, it's like Godzilla dies, and it's just like this shouldn't have happened. Like this is awful.
yeah.
And
nuclear anything was a complete mistake.
Yeah, so I have such a deep respect for it. Just a worldwide classic.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one is a classic movie. And if there was one to go see, yeah, you got to watch the original.
Yeah, if you ignore everything that we were talking about, at least watch that one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that does it for the ranking. The last thing I want to say is just our closing thoughts. Like I said, I had a ton of fun doing this with you, Nathan. It's something that I deeply, deeply love, and I'm able to share that with you. It's been a great experience. It's been really great, just like knowing not only like me getting to revisit these, but like knowing what your reaction and your opinion is going to be of it. Like I've always wanted to know, like, oh, I wonder what Nathan's going to think about this one. So I always have such a good time, like knowing like when we get done with one of these, like getting to know your opinions. And that's why I wanted to ask you. I mean, going into this, I mean, you had seen next to nothing of these movies.
Yeah.
And so and at this point now you've seen all 15 of them. So what are your thoughts on this?
It's kind of been like a 180 because I'll be very honest with you, other than the first one, I had maybe zero desire to watch these movies. I did, seriously, and I mean, I'm just being 100% honest.
No, yeah.
Looking at it from like the outside in, I was always like, I don't know, they never really seemed up my alley. But you seemed really passionate about it and you're really excited to share it. It's like, okay, let's take this journey. Now I've reached the end and I'm like, yeah,
imagine if you said no.
I know, right? We'd be in a very different situation. But I try to be as open as possible, and I think they're really fun. I'm so happy, and I think what makes these movies a lot better for me is I can see your passion for them, your energy, like the amount of work and research and reading that you put into doing these episodes really means a lot. And I mean, some of these movies are absolutely fantastic, and I didn't realize just how much I liked them until I ranked them, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this one's really good, and this one's really good."
Yeah.
So I think these movies mean a lot to me now, and I'm happy that we could share that together. I'm happy that you shared that passion with me. So thank you for showing me these movies for real.
Well, anytime. It's not over. We're gonna
Mhm.
keep going down the track. We'll get back on the Godzilla train at some point. But I definitely think we need to take a little bit of a breather from them, so that way we can get a little more of passion for it, and that way we can appreciate it that much more when we do return to the series. But as fans, thank you so much for joining us for this journey. I had a ton of fun. I mean, I the ones I always try to share these episodes out the most, just because I feel the most proudest of that work. So I always want to make sure you guys listen to it. I mean, and I do appreciate any thoughts, opinions. If you guys have of the series, let me know. Let us know. I mean, we always want to know what you think about it.
And I needed to add, now I'm a Godzilla fan. You made me a Godzilla fan, Ryan. You did. Yes. But no, I agree. If you enjoyed this series, let us know. If there's anything else you want us to cover, give us a shout out. We'd love to hear from you and everything.
Enough of that mushy crap.
That garbage.
Let's get back on to our regular schedule program. Nathan, what are we going to be talking about on Tuesday?
Well, can you tell me what month next month is?
Wait, is next month going to be October?
Yeah, it's October. All right. Well, Ryan, I'm really sorry to do this to you, to pick our Tuesday choice, because I picked the last horror movie from 1982. It is streaming on Tubi and Prime. It's the last one. So sorry.
So there's no more after that?
Yeah, it ended there. So
oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I guess that's the last one. So but be sure to check that out with us over there. It's going to be a fun time. But like I was saying earlier, if you have any thoughts and opinions of this podcast, please email us over at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on X and X us over at X and get an X with the IDF pod.
Mm-hmm.
And also check out the Patreon at patreon.com/driveindoublefeaturepodcast. But hey, wait a minute, Nathan, you thought I was going to let you get off, didn't you?
What?
I don't know if you remember, Nathan, but you made me a promise when we got to the end of this Godzilla series. Nathan, which one's better, Godzilla or King Kong?
I knew you were going to ask this. I had a feeling I forgot. Godzilla. I will say it right here. I wanted to be honest because I wanted to see likable Godzilla, and likable Godzilla is very likable. So
okay.
Yes.
Well, good. Then that means we can continue the podcast. So until next time.
Until next time.